Friends, we are discussing classification building based on occupancy. The National Building Code 2016 to be modified in 2025 provides 9 groups of building. The first one being residential, Group B is educational building, Group C is institutional building, that means healthcare and jails, etc. Assembly, Group D, assembly, Group E, business building, Group F, mercantile building, Group G, industrial building, Group H, storage building. There is no Group I, but instead there is Group J, which are hazardous buildings. Friends, we have seen 9 different types of buildings as per National Building Code, out of which uh, each group is divided in subgroups. Uh, the group A, known as residential building, uh, these shall include any building in which sleeping accommodation is provided for normal residential purposes with or without cooking or dining or both facilities, except any building classified under Group C. The subdivision 1 of Group A is known as lodging and rooming houses. The subdivision A2 is known as one or two family private dwellings, जिसको हम कोठी भी कहते हैं, घर भी कहते हैं. Group subdivision A3 are dormitories, that is something like dharamsala. Subdivision 4 is known as A4, apartment houses, flats. Subdivision 5 are known as A5, hotels, non-star hotels. Subdivision A6 is known as hotels, that is starred hotels. Friends, I shall discuss now subdivision A1, lodging and rooming houses. These include any building or group of building under the same management in which separate sleeping accommodation for a total of not more than 40 persons bed, 40% bed, that means 40 beds, on transient or permanent basis with or without dining facilities, but without cooking facilities. For individual is provided. This includes inns, clubs, motels and guest houses. A lodging or rooming house shall be classified as dwelling in subdivision A2 if no room in any of its private dwelling unit is rented to more than 3 persons. Friends, we discuss now subdivision A2 of residential building. One or two family private dwellings. These shall include any private dwelling which is occupied by members of one or two families and has a total sleeping accommodation for not more than 20 persons. If rooms in a private dwelling are rented to outsiders, these shall be for accommodating not more than 3 persons per room. If sleeping accommodation for more than 20 persons is provided in any one residential building, it shall be classified as a building in subdivision A1, A3 or A4 as the case may be. Friends, now we take up subdivision A3 known as dormitories. These shall include any building in which group sleeping accommodation is provided, with or without dining facilities for persons who are not members of the same family, in one room or a series of closely associated rooms under joint occupancy and single management. For example, school and college dormitories, students and other hostels and military barracks. Friends, now we take up subdivision A4, known as apartment houses or flats. These shall include any building or structure in which living quarters are provided for 3 or more families living independently of each other and with independent cooking facilities, for example, apartment houses, mansions, and chals. Friends, this is Group B educational buildings. We are discussing educational buildings. These shall include any building used for school, college, other training institutions, for daycare purposes, involving assembly for instruction, education, or recreation for not less than 20 students. There are two subdivisions of B1 category. Subdivision B1, schools up to senior secondary level. This subdivision shall include any building or group of buildings under single management which is used for students not less than 20 in a number. The subdivision B2 includes all other training institutions. All others are training institutions. This subdivision shall include any building or group of building under single management which is used for students not less than 100 in number. Friends, the Group C institutional buildings includes all those buildings where people are sent under prescription by doctors or law authorities or penal and mental institutions. So Group C is very less understood among all type of buildings. These shall include any building or part thereof which is used for purposes such as medical or other treatment or care of persons suffering from physical or mental illness, disease of infirmity, care of infants, convalescents or aged persons, and for penal or correctional detention in which the liberty of the inmates is restricted. Institutional building ordinarily provide sleeping accommodation for the occupants. This group includes subdivision C1, hospital and sanatoria. These are all healthcare buildings. Subdivision C2 are known as custodial institutions. Group C3 is known as penal and mental institutions. Friends, subdivision C1, that is hospital and sanatoria. This subdivision shall include any building or a group of building under single management which is used for housing persons suffering from physical limitations because of health of age, for example, hospitals, infirmaries, sanatoria, and nursing homes. Friends, subdivision C2, that is custodial institutions. This subdivision shall include any building or a group of buildings under single management which is used for custody and care of persons such as children, convalescent and aged, for example, homes for the aged and infirm, convalescent homes, and orphanages. Friends, the subdivision C3 of institutional building is known as penal and mental institutions, पागल खाना जैसी चीजें. This subdivision shall include any building or a group of buildings under single management which is used for housing persons under restraint or who are detained for penal or corrective purposes in which the liberty of the inmate is restricted. For example, jails, prisons, mental hospitals, mental sanatoria, and reformatories. Friends, now we are discussing Group D, assembly buildings. Assembly buildings are those buildings in which not less than 50 congregate gather for amusement, recreation, social and religious, patriotic, civil, travel and similar purposes. Most of where the 50% assemble for a short time. This includes, for example, theaters, motion picture houses, assembly halls, auditoria, exhibition halls, museums, skating rinks, gymnasiums, restaurants, and places of worship, mandir, masjid, gurdwara, dance halls, club rooms, passenger stations, metro stations, and terminals of air, surface, and marine public transportation services, recreation piers, and stadia. Friends, now we are discussing subdivision D1, D2, D3, D4, D5. Buildings, the subdivision D1 is buildings having a theatrical or motion picture or any other stage and fixed seat for over 1000 persons, big theaters. Subdivision 2, D2 buildings having a theatrical or motion picture or any other stage and fixed seat where fixed seat up to 1000 persons. The third subdivision of assembly building is D3 buildings without a permanent stage having accommodation for 300 or more persons but no permanent seating arrangement. The fourth of assembly building is known as subdivision D4, buildings without a permanent stage having accommodation for less than 300 persons with no permanent seating arrangement. The last one of the assembly building, subdivision 5, All other structures, including temporary structures designed for assembly of people, not covered by subdivision D1 to D4 at ground level. Friends, now we are discussing Group E, business buildings. Mistakenly told as commercial building. The business buildings shall include any building or part of building which is used for transaction of business other than and covered by Group F, and part of buildings covered by 3.1.1.1 for keeping accounts and records and similar purposes, professional establishment, service facility, etc. These include city halls, town halls, courthouses, library shall be classified in groups so far as the principal function of this transaction of public business and keeping of book and records. In short, I can tell you business buildings are those buildings where transactions done through check or any such facility, but not in cash. Friends, now we are discussing subdivision E1, that is offices, banks, professional establishment like offices of architects, engineers, doctors, lawyers, and police stations. Subdivision 2, E2, includes laboratories, research establishment, libraries, and test houses. The third subdivision includes E3, computer installations. The fourth one is E4 for telephone exchanges. The fifth is E5, broadcasting station and TV stations. Friends, we have already discussed Group E, known as business buildings. Now we are discussing Group F, mercantile buildings. Mercantile building, let me tell you frankly, are the buildings where transactions are done by customer through coins. That means cash, coins and notes. The mercantile buildings include any building or part of building which is used as shops, stores, market for display and sale of merchandise, either wholesale or in retail. The group F1 of mercantile building includes shops, stores, departmental store, markets, and having area up to 5,500 square meter. Subdivision 2, these as above, but more than 500 square meter. Subdivision 3, underground shopping centers, storage and service facilities, incidental to sale or merchandise, and located in the same building shall be included under this group. Friends, now we are discussing Group G, known as industrial buildings. The industrial buildings are mostly up to 2 floors, that is the criteria, and they have a good height. These shall include any building or part of building are structure in which products and materials of all kinds and properties are fabricated, assembled, manufactured, or processed. For example, assembly plants, industrial laboratories, dry cleaning plants, power plants, generating units, pumping stations, fumigation chambers, laundries, buildings are structured in gas plants, refineries, dairies and sawmills, etc. Of this subdivision, G1 includes building for used for low hazard industries, whereas G2 includes moderate hazard industries and Group C includes high hazard industries. Friends, now we are discussing Group H storage buildings. These shall include any building or part of building used primarily for storage of sheltering, including servicing, processing, or repairs incidental to storage of goods, ware, and merchandise, except those that involve highly combustible or explosive products or materials, which will fall in next category. Vehicles or animals, for example, warehouses, cold storages, freight depot, transit sacks, storehouses, truck and marine terminals, garages, hangars, grain elevators, barns and stables. Storage properties are characterized by the presence of relatively small number of persons in proportion to area. Any new use which increase to number of friends, let me tell you frankly, storage buildings are single story building but having height up to 30 or even 60 meters. Friends, now we have come to Group J, hazardous building. These shall include any building or part of building which is used for storage, handling, manufacture, or processing of highly combustible or explosive material or products which are liable to burn with extreme rapidity and or which may produce poisonous fumes or explosives for storage, handling, manufacturing, or processing, which involve highly corrosive, toxic, and noxious alkalis, acids, and other liquids or chemicals producing phlegm, fumes, and explosive, poisonous, irritant, or corrosive gases, and for storage, handling, or processing of any material producing explosive mixtures of dust which result in the division of matter into fine particles subject to spontaneous ignition. Friends, this particular slide shows you type of buildings as classified in ECSBC 2024. The different typologies are classified as hospitality, educational, healthcare, shopping complex, business, or assembly. And Hospitality type includes star hotels, B. No star hotel, C. Resort. Educational building uh, is D type colleges, E type university, F type institutions, G type schools, S type, that's all. Then healthcare buildings are classified by H hospital, I outpatient healthcare. The next category is shopping complex, J shopping mall, K standalone retails, L open gallery malls, M supermarkets. That's all. Under business category, we have daytime use, N type or O type 24 hours use. The next category, friends, is assembly type, which includes P multiplexes, Q theater, and R building used for transport service. Thanks, friends, for peacefully watching this particular module by VK Jain. Thanks once again.